Hello everyone, welcome back. It's me, TMZ, and we are, this is a different thing. A little change up from the usual. Um, there had been a request for the title history. So we're going to do this right before we jump into the Crockett Cup 1990. So without further ado, and also, we'll take a look at the Hall of Immortals and Hall of Fame as well. And if there are any other additional videos that you would like to see before we get back into the swing of things, let me know in the comments below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's look through the title history first with the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, which, spoiler alert, has been purchased in the pillaging of NJPW. It's official. So 1990 is going to be a crazy year without a doubt. Because we have some of the very best wrestlers, technical workers in the world. So we'll just take a look at their belt. Takada was their first IWGP, then Shinya Hashimoto and Kushinaka, and now Tetsumi Fujinami, the best technical wrestler in this simulation, as the current champion, and won it for the WWF. Then we got the Road Warriors with the first Crockett Cup. Obviously, this was purchased, from the NWA. Manny Fernandez, Dennis Condrey, Gino Hernandez, Buzz Sawyer, Brad Rengans, Larry Zbyszko, and then obviously last year, the first WWF Crockett Cup tournament winner, the Mega Powers, who would later go on nearly a year later to main event WrestleMania 6. Then we got the NWA title. Terry Taylor, the first champ. Then it was vacated. He came to WWF, ironically. Then Gino, then Flair, Steamboat, Flair for a second time. That was here on the WWF. Flair was actually the one to bring it over, and Steamboat was the first WWF champion, then Flair again, and now Davey Boy. And then, get ready for this, the IC Championship. Definitely went deep. Let's start it all the way back. Tito, obviously, had it for a third time, began the save with Tito as the champion. And you know what? I was a little bit on the fence as to what Tito could bring to the table, but I kind of liked it. And a lot of my other options, who were right in that IC title picture, needed to get built up. So Tito held it from July to January, quite a long reign, and 10 defenses. Then Mr. Perfect would be the first newbie who I would give the title. Then Savage would take it off of Perfect, and he would end up dropping it to Perfect. Then Steamboat, and Steamboat would lose it to a heel Roddy Piper shortly after Piper's WWF title reign. Then Jake Roberts, face Jake, would beat Piper. And so far, all of these guys are WWF Hall of Famers, no doubt about that. And then maybe with exception of Tito, all of these guys, and Perfect has a ways to go, but he's still he's young enough. These guys could all be Hall of Immortals guys, without a doubt. So that's pretty crazy. Hennig won it a second time, obviously mentioned that. Then Jake would get a title he's been chasing for quite some time, and he would lose it finally to Adrian Adonis, who is definitely a mix-up. If you guys recall, Adonis's title reign was definitely emblematic of storytelling that we wanted to tell. It furthered a lot of feuds, and was one of the first times where I felt like we truly used the title to its fullest extent. Then Misawa would win his first, big singles title. Harley Race would then win it. Race was kind of in a similar situation of Adonis, and also Race has a grandiose nature. He's got an aura of a champion in my eyes, so it made a lot of sense. Then we had Dusty Rhodes, baby, another person who I'm glad we got to mark down in the record books as a champion. Then the young Rick Rude. Now we're bringing in a new crop of guys. Obviously Misawa. Then we got some older guys in the middle. Then Rude, and now Sting. And then at WrestleMania, Jake the Snake Roberts would win that title for a second time. So he joins a list of multiple-time IC title holders. Now we'll go to the King of the Ring, which will be coming up fairly soon. Obviously, Don Morocco, the first one, but my first King of the Ring. And kind of like how Inoki's WWF heavyweight title reign gets forgotten, Don Morocco, for all he's contributed to the business, I would just like to only recognize DiBiase being the first King of the Ring, then Savage, then Vader, and then Sting. So we have 4 Hall of Immortal future inductees without a shadow of a doubt winning the King of the Ring, and some pretty good prestige there. Next, the women's title. So far, we only have 3 champs: Bull Nakano, the inaugural champ, AJ Kong, the next, and then Nagayu, the third. Now on to the most prestigious belt in all the land. Obviously, Savage is the current champ, but let's go back a little bit of history. Shiki Baby had won it. Then Hogan would take it off of Shiki, hold it for 2 years, and we got Hogan right in the middle of his long title reign. We cut his title reign short a year for him to lose it to Roddy Piper in the main event of WrestleMania 2. Piper would carry it almost the whole way to WrestleMania 3, but then Andre would win it, have a title defense, and then drop it back to Hogan in the perhaps biggest main event in WrestleMania history, making Hogan, I believe, the third 2-time heavyweight title holder. Then DiBiase would defeat Hogan with the help of Andre the Giant. DiBiase would lose that title to Savage in the main event of WrestleMania 4, I believe. So, from 85 to 88, we really did not have a lot of movement of that belt. Then Savage would carry it all the way to WrestleMania 5. So, not a whole lot of movement again, but once Flair got that title, we got that belt moving a decent bit. Flair obviously won it in WrestleMania 4 in kind of a disappointing main event, and then he would go on to have a tremendous, it would end up being 4-match series with Steamboat, but 3 matches for the WWF title, in which Steamboat would eventually win, but then Flair would win the title back. Flair would then drop the belt to Hogan at the Royal Rumble, and then in the main event of WrestleMania 6, Savage would become a 2-time champion himself again, becoming the 5th 2-time champion, and Hogan became the first 3-time champion at the Royal Rumble. Does that make sense? Definitely a lot of history, a lot of prestige in that belt. Even though seemingly moved around a lot, let's do the math. We started in 85. Hogan had the belt. Initially, we kept it with him for nearly a year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 new champs. since '85, and we are in 1990 now. That's a good clip. And it's obviously, the crazy thing about it is we have so many guys who I would just love to give the title now, who are ready for it. But the reason I slow it down and keep it on a steady pace without just, tossing the belt around like a beach volleyball is because I want to keep the record book semi-clean. So there's that. Then also the World Martial Arts Heavyweight title, which we also took from NJPW in the pillaging of their territory. Let's just go back to the beginning. Starts in '78, and Inoki held that for 7 years. Fujiwara would hold it for nearly a year. Sasaki, Fujinami, Yatsu, and then Fujinami held it for another long stretch and 17 defenses. This was the belt that was like he was on the line in Worlds Collide, and Flair would win that in the main event. Now, remember, this grants him a title shot of his choosing, so be on the lookout for that sort of a Money in the Bank type of award there. Then we got the tag titles, our last title on the line. As you can see, the Steiners, certainly the newest champs, the current champs. And we would start out in '85 with the Dream Team, Beefcake and Valentine, and I had wanted to get the belts off of them as quickly as possible, so the Bulldogs would get it off of them very shortly after starting the sim, and they would keep it for a very long while, building up their credibility, and then starting a feud with the Hart Foundation, in which the Hart Foundation would hold on to the belts for a good while, losing the belts at WrestleMania to the Road Warriors, who would then drop the belts come December to the Russians, Nikita and Nikolai. Then Rock and Roll Express would defeat the Russians shortly after to get beaten by Stan Hansen and Vader at WrestleMania. Then these two monsters would go head-to-head with the Road Warriors and drop the titles to them for them to become two-time champions. And then the Bulldogs, who had been out of title contention for quite some time, would win those titles back again. Then Demolition, then the Fabulous Freebirds, and then the Blade Runners, followed by the Brain Busters, then the Cowboys from Hell, and the Bulldogs would win it for a third time, and the Brainbusters would win it a second time before dropping it to the Steiner brothers. So those are some of the very best teams in the industry, all from '85 to now, and obviously I feel like the strength of this title division has really increased in recent time, without shadow of a doubt. Now we'll exit out of that. Back to the main screen. If you will give me just a moment, we can look at our Hall of Fame. We can look at all the Hall of Fames, actually, as soon as this application responds. But the record keeping of this game is what makes it awesome, and is what makes it worth it also. So, the Hall of Fame right now for the WWF, obviously, as I'll add it right now, just a moment. And then we'll increase the size of that so we can all have a good look. Obviously there, Andre the Giant, more deserving than anyone else. World Heavyweight title holder. Shortly after WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 4, he retired and went on the ballot immediately. And then Same year, Billy Graham, another WWF heavyweight title holder. The goal is obviously to get all the WWF World Heavyweight title holders in, and now that, I mean, it's going to be really tough to get the Hall of Fame right for some of the guys who aren't automatically put on as eligible candidates just because of how many people we've had come through the WWF. But these guys who are a blast from the past, semi-easy. Bruno, he was, I think, the first person I added. It might have been the first class that I added. We'll see. I think 85 might have actually been the first class, but we will see. Bruno, without a doubt, first ballot Hall of Famer. Buddy Rogers in there with Bruno's class. Freddie Blassie in there as well. Gorgeous George in there. Some of the people who laid the foundation. So 86 was definitely a tremendous class. Then we had Ivan Koloff in 88, understated, but a WWF champion nonetheless, and had great successes outside. Carl Gotch, he was a WWF World Heavyweight Champion, but a road agent for the WWF for quite a long time, so we honored him by inducting him as well. Pat Patterson, 86, what can I say more, the first WWF Intercontinental Champion. Pedro Morales in 88 as well, with Ivan Koloff, World Heavyweight Champion, Tag Champ, and two-time Intercontinental Champ. Stu went in for an 87 just because he darn tootin' deserved it. Moolah in with 86. Obviously, she is one of the OGs for the women's division. And then the Wild Samoans in 89. So far, they are one of the few, or the only tag in the WWF Hall of Fame. Certainly that will change shortly. So, obviously, pretty strong class. Let me know anyone who you are surprised isn't in the Hall of Fame yet. And obviously, I'll get back to that. And now we'll look at the Hall of the Immortals, and then I'll let y'all hit the road, so to speak. If you would just give me a moment to add it here. There we go, and then let's make that larger and center that. Here we go. Now the Hall of the Immortals. Billy Graham in 89. Blue Demon. Bruno, no surprise there. Buddy Rogers. Fritz von Erich, the Human Chimney of World Class Championship Wrestling fame. Giant Baba, who is a 3-time All Japan Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer with Inoki and Jumbo. And look at all those titles. That is absolutely astonishing. Then Gorgeous George, Carl Gotch, Killer Kowalski, Ricky Dozan, Lou Thez, Stu, and Vern Gagne. Guys, thank you for viewing. Be on the lookout for if you haven't watched WrestleMania 6, I do suggest that you do that. And also, the Crockett Cup is on the way, so be on the lookout for that as well. And I will catch y'all on the flippity floop. Oh, and also, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. And again, I will catch you on the flippity floop.